State podcast. My name is Nicole,
And I'm Carl.
and today we're going to be talking about the cult Soldiers of Christ.
Ooh, they sound fun.
Yeah, if you don't live in the metro Atlanta area, you probably have not heard of this cult. This is very much an Atlanta thing.
So they are specific to Atlanta? They don't have any other areas or regions?
I don't know.
Okay.
I could not find what their parent organization is.
Or if they
So,
have one.
If they have one. I don't really know much about their beliefs, and this is not a deep dive into their beliefs. This is just what's happened locally, and then we'll continue to cover it as more stuff is exposed. So in September 2023, a body was found in a local Korean style spa.
Oh, yeah. Don't you go to that spa every so
I
often?
do.
Oh.
I do.
Yeah, so this one hits close to home. like,
Very close.
closer than we than typically me and you like.
Yeah, this is in our neighborhood. No, I mean,
In Atlanta, if you're from the Atlanta area, you understand that neighborhood means a huge meaning.
yeah, I don't know what the population is right now. It's like between 5 and 6 million in the metro
But we're
area.
talking about Gwinnett County.
Gwinnett County.
Mhm.
And Duluth and Gwinnett County have the third largest Korean population in the country.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so we've got some really good Korean barbecue, and
I did know that.
Yeah. That's what we do for birthdays and Mother's Day, Korean barbecue. So there's some really good food in this area.
Mhm.
And there's also the Korean style spa, and there's a lot of Korean churches.
Mhm.
In fact, our daughter went to a Christian Korean preschool for a couple of years, from the time she was like 2 or 3.
They were so nice.
They were very nice.
I
Yeah.
have to say that they were, out of any of the places that our children have gone, that they were the friendliest, except for the first one when we were. I don't want to give details to like specific details to our life, but the first one we went to, the house.
Oh, that other church. They were kind of a universalist church. Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, we've had some pretty good ones now that I
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really funny. We used to call her a little Christian because she went to these Christian preschools and was part of these Christian pageants and stuff. And it was really kind of cute.
But she was just there for the snacks.
Yeah. Oh,
Let's
yeah.
just be honest.
Totally. She was 3. She was there for the snacks. But there's a large Korean population here in the metro Atlanta area. And a body was found in the trunk of this Korean spa. That kind of was crazy because in this Korean spa there's a lot of I feel like there's probably criminal activity around this area.
Yeah.
So it's not the safest area. The spa is magical. The spa is absolutely really incredible.
I've seen the pictures of it. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think the one in LA, there's a Korean style spa in LA. I think that one's a little bit more magical than this one, but this one is.
Is that the one that Conan O'Brien went
Yeah,
to?
yeah.
That was a good video too. So.
Yeah. So the Korean spa it's open 24 hours. If you're not familiar with this concept, and the spa is called Jeju, and that's how we say it in American English.
I'm sure that we're saying that in Korean.
I don't know how you would pronounce it in Korean. So the spa is, you go in, you pay $30, I think it is what it is now, and that $30 lasts you for 24 hours, and there's a wet part of the spa and then a dry part of the spa. There's also a pool in that area too, so it doesn't really make sense. But anyway, so you go into the wet spa, and there's separated by gender. So it's the male area and the female area, and everyone is naked. And
which is why I haven't gone to that.
right,
Spa yet.
because there are 3 types of pools. There's a cold bath, there's a body temperature bath, and then there's a hot bath. You go between each 3 of them. And then there's older Korean women that do what they call a body shampoo, and it's where they scrub all of the dead skin off of you. They can give you a massage too, but it's exceedingly painful.
Yeah.
It's so painful. And then from there, you go into the dry part of the sauna, and it's the 5 or 7. I can't remember now. It's been a long time since I've been. And each of the saunas has a different motive.
Mhm.
I don't know what the word is.
Using a lot of words
Modus operandi.
that revolve around murder. I'm just going to say that.
Right.
You have said body, dealing with the body, opportunity, motive.
Right. So each
There's a lot
one-
of innuendo going on here. I'm just curious, like, is there a specific section that has, like,
the bodies.
the trunks?
Right.
It's just trunks and bodies and,
Well, what's really shocking about it too is why there's a whole lot of stuff about this story that is really baffling. I first learned about this Korean style spa, 15 years ago
Mhm.
from an EMT. This Korean spa is used by a lot of law enforcement because it's open 24 hours.
Yeah.
And so firemen, policemen, EMTs, they go there to relax and
After shift,
decompress
yeah.
after a shift.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot law enforcement there.
Yeah.
So it's a weird place to leave a body, first of all, which I think it was deliberate, actually, when we get into this story. They found the body in September of 2023 in the trunk of a car at this Korean spa.
Mhm.
And when they started to process the body, it was a woman, and she was 70 pounds.
Mhm.
And this was an adult woman that they found.
Mhm.
She was 70 pounds, and they had no idea who she was. So they kind of backtracked, and I learned this from the preliminary hearings that they had. All these people it's alleged.
Oh, yeah. Because the trial hasn't.
The trial hasn't happened. They haven't
Happened yet,
been
okay.
convicted. They've been charged, but we're still waiting for the trial, and I don't know what the trial date is going to happen. So, backtracking to this family. So this is a family of 6 with one individual who was adopted.
Mhm.
So it's the Lee family that have been charged, and then this one other person, his name is Eric. And they convinced a woman from South Korea to come and be part of their group
Mhm.
here in the United States. They lured her with the idea that she could rest and heal from some trauma that she had experienced in South Korea.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. The woman's mother knew the matriarch of the Lee family, and that's how this connection was. They had been working on them for months. I think the text that they showed was over a 3 to 4 month period where they were trying to get her to come to the United States. The father, so it's a mother and a father, and they have 4 or 5 kids. They have a lot of kids. And one of them is underage.
Mhm.
And one of the sons of this Lee family, he wanted to start his own church. So the father is a pastor, and the son wanted to start his own church. And I think he was thinking by recruiting these people from Korea over here, he was gaining membership to his church.
Right.
So finally she relents, and the mother and the daughter, they come here on a visitor visa. And the mother goes back after a few days after they say, your daughter's going to be able to rest and relax.
Mhm.
Well, they kept her pretty much a hostage in the basement. And what they were doing is they said that she was possessed by evil, and they were trying to repossess her. No, what's the word?
Excommunicate? No, that's not
No.
it either.
That's what you were going to say, exterminate.
Well, yeah. Exterminate the demons.
What's the word when you take a demon out? Exercise.
Exercise. Yeah.
Exercise.
Yes, it's somewhere in between the two words that we said. Yeah. Yeah.
So they were trying to exorcise the evil spirit out of her. And they had a whole process that they were going through, and the process was physical immolation
Mm.
and denying of food.
Basically, it's like getting rid of a cold, right? You
Mhm.
starve it out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, wow.
And they would beat her regularly. She escaped a little bit, and she went to the father. And so the weird thing about this whole story is that the father hasn't been charged. He wasn't arrested.
Mm.
Just the mother and the 5 kids, and then this other guy. So it's a 7 people in total that were arrested.
That are under arrest.
That were under that are I
Yeah.
don't know.
Future past tense is always hard.
Yeah. They were arrested. They're still charged. And 6 of them are still in jail, county
Right.
jail.
Right.
All right. So she escaped, and her name is Sihi.
Mm-hmm.
The detectives were able to determine who she was
Mhm.
based on travel records, and because she was here on a tourist visa, it was hard for them to kind of track down, but
Yeah.
eventually they were able to track down who
Yeah.
she was. And her name is Sihi. So Sihi escaped the basement to the upstairs and went to the father and said, "I'm trapped. I'm in the basement.
Right.
I need to go home." And he just sent her back downstairs because she was evil and they needed to repossess her.
We're just sorry. Yeah. You can't tell jokes about a victim right now.
We'll edit that out.
Yeah.
And
So to exercise her some more. Yes.
Yeah. They all believed. So the son believed that he could, or he can, talk directly to God, or God talks directly to him. And he was saving people one person at a time.
Yeah.
So the complexity here is, we spoke about this in a previous podcast. The United States doesn't have any coercive
Mhm.
control laws.
Mhm.
So these 7 members are charged as a common street gang,
Mhm.
as street gang laws. So some of the titles are, and I think probably we'll label this, is it death cult or street gang? The reason why they're doing it street gang is because there's specific laws around a collaboration of people that kill. So yes,
It's like getting someone on a RICO charge, even though
exactly.
they're
They're
organized
mafia.
crime. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to hear this a lot through the course of this trial, is that, oh, this is a street gang, but it's not. It's the way that they're able to prosecute this group of people.
Which is dangerous too, because all you have to do is prove that they're not a street gang. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I don't know if that is if it is a way, but it seems to me that there's a way that basically we need to change our laws for coercive control.
Exactly.
Groups.
Because it most definitely is a death cult or a killer cult.
So is it? I mean, I understand someone died. I'm not disputing that, but a lot of these death cults are around the action of someone dying is the outcome or a belief or something like that. Is that what they believe, or is it just happen to be that they bring someone almost to death to cure them of their demon that they have inside?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think that's what they were trying to do. They
So
were trying to get someone to that point.
So they're not a death cult, but we're going to label them because people died under their
Yeah.
cult's guidance.
So other people allegedly have come forward to say that they were part of this group,
Mm-hmm.
and the same things happened to them. So I think that's probably what they were doing. They were chastising the body to purify the soul.
Right. Or that if you weaken the body, the spirit can't hold on to the body anymore and
Whatever.
leaves. Yeah.
We don't know. We don't. But we're just theorizing what they were doing. They definitely were not a street gang. I don't think they're they lived in this fancy house similar to the neighborhood that we live in,
Mm-hmm.
and they were operating this out of their house and in the basement. The whole neighborhood was just shocked that.
Yeah.
I mean, we were shocked when it happened too.
Well, especially twice that an area that you've been has had something happen
Hmm.
that always makes me freak out a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So the way that the body was found was really interesting in my mind.
Like, why was it left there? I guess like
Yeah,
that's my big thing.
right. Okay, so earlier I said there's 7 people that were arrested.
Hmm.
Okay, 6 of them are still in jail, but a 7th one is not in jail. 7th one is out on bond. So the 7th
Mm.
one, his name is Eric, and Eric is not part of the Lee family.
Mhm.
There's some stuff that he was adopted or not adopted. I don't really know. I don't
Right.
really know what his standing is, but he definitely was part of the Soldiers of Christ.
Hmm.
And he more than likely went through the same process that Sihi went through.
Hmm.
And he was a full-fledged member of this group.
Yeah, he made it through. So
Yeah.
mhm.
Okay, so
It's like running the gauntlet, basically. Like if you can survive this, then you're
you're one of us
yeah.
now. Yeah. So he was part of the Soldiers of Christ. The matriarch of the Lee family, so when they went into the house, they found that Sihi had died there at the house
Right.
from the evidence. So the matriarch Lee, I don't remember her name, she's the mother, she said to Eric, take the body and get rid of the body.
Hmm.
So he put the body in the trunk and drove it to the Korean spa and then left it there and then had someone take him to the hospital because he was injured. Now, nobody
Oh,
really
that's
knows
interesting.
the story about that.
Yeah.
So then he goes to the hospital and he contacts the father and he said, I left something in my car. Can you go get it? Now, again, this is the spa where there's a lot of law enforcement
Mhm.
that go to this spa. This is not, it's such a strange place, but it's a very Korean community,
Yeah.
this area.
Yeah.
That's where we get the best food is from this little
Yeah.
area. Eric calls the father and says, I left something in the car. You need to go get it. And so the dad comes to the spa, opens the trunk, and they have all of this on video
Oh my
because
God.
when you go to this Korean spa, you are videoed,
Yeah.
taped at every
Yeah.
because that's just the nature of
Yeah. The spot.
the spa.
Yeah.
It's a really hard spa to describe. It's not if you're not familiar with the Korean spa, it's really hard to describe.
Yeah.
So they have him on camera opening the trunk, seeing her, and then immediately calling the police.
Wow. Okay.
So I think he thought that Eric had killed her and he accidentally found it. What I think, and this is hypothetical, allegedly based on the preliminary
Yeah.
hearing, is that Eric was told to dispose the body
Hmm.
and he purposefully called the dad for him to find the
To
body.
frame him.
Not to frame him,
Mhm.
just to expose.
Mm.
And I think now Eric is waking up to the fact that he was in a cult because
Right.
he's the only one that they granted bail.
Yeah.
None of the other 6.
And they didn't arrest the dad either.
And they didn't arrest the dad.
Right.
So none, even the juvenile that was part of the 6, have been granted bail.
That's interesting.
They are all still in jail and waiting for the trial.
Wow.
Now they're saying they're not guilty because she died of natural causes.
Starvation is natural.
Yeah. And I think if Eric is smart, he will turn against them
Yeah.
and become
Yeah.
state's evidence.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking is going to happen if he wakes up. This is ongoing, and we will learn a whole lot more about the Soldiers of Christ and what they believe. But I think it was the Lee's son, his talking to God, and we'll learn what those beliefs are, and then
Yeah.
we can make fun of those beliefs. But
Well, the interesting thing I have is about the name, right? Soldiers
Soldiers of Christ. Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot of connotations that go along with that. Because even my limited knowledge of the Bible, I'm remembering the sword of Christ, the shield of Christ, all of that stuff. And I know a lot of organizations that look at that as being like, oh, we can almost take up arms to
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah.
to enact our religious beliefs, the word
Well,
of God.
any one of them can, I mean, you can use the Bible to justify pretty much any kind of
Well,
action you
Well,
want.
right. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm just thinking of it from the standpoint of their beliefs. Again, we don't know their beliefs. What I'm looking at is that typically when you use words like that, you are implying a certain set of a thought process to your beliefs about religion,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It's a militant.
Yes. Yes. Or there's an action that needs to be taken against an enemy.
Yeah.
So who's the enemy? And again, it's what we've come back to many times is the first step of control is to dehumanize the individual. Well, in this case, it's not so much dehumanizing, it's that, this reminds me of the Daybell case is that there's a demon inside of you. So that is the enemy of God.
We have
We
to
are
beat
the
it out
soldiers
you
of God, and we can do whatever is necessary.
to get that
to-
demon out.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
because we are in a holy battle. We are soldiers of, and that's the connotation that I
Mhm.
have rolling around in my head, strictly from the name.
Yep. Yep. And
And-
what happened?
hmm
So based on the name and what happened.
Yeah, yeah. Because like you don't torture someone to death being nice. Like it does feel very much like this is like an extension of the zombie kind of
Right.
thought process.
Right. Well, so I'm in the middle of the Daybell. We're in the middle of the Daybell trial right
Mhm.
now, and I'm streaming it and watching it and kind of obsessing
And
over it
processing it. Yeah.
and processing it. And during the middle of it is when I remembered the soldiers of Christ. There was something that they had said, and I'm like, wait a minute, that happened
right here.
right here in our backyard
hmm
with this Korean death cult, killer cult. Let's call them killer cult instead of death cult.
Yeah.
Killer cult,
Yeah. yeah.
not a street gang.
Things
a
because
killer cult.
you say death cult and I just think of El Muerte,
Yeah.
the death cult of Mexico, the
Yeah.
Mexican death cult.
Yeah, those guys are cool too, except all of the
The death and
The death.
the killing. And,
yeah, except all the killing.
yeah.
They
Yeah,
got-
they're great guys except for all the bad stuff they do, which is
Yeah.
everything.
No,
But-
I'm just thinking about their artwork. That's it.
yeah.
They've
yeah.
got great artwork.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, and I guess I should have, there are so many Christian cults in Korea.
hmm
I didn't know this.
hmm
I guess I should have known. I had a staff member one time and a few jobs ago who is Korean, and he used to listen to religious talks, I guess the word is, very loudly, like you would listen to rap music when he would come in and go into work. And people would comment out to me, they were like, your employee listens to, and I'm like, okay, that's his car, that's his personal space, he can do whatever he wants to.
Yes.
And, it just kind of stopped with me. People were complaining about it. It's like, whatever.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Whatever.
I'm going to go get rid of his religious freedom, because it makes you slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that is not going to end in a lawsuit.
Oh my goodness. Great guy. Great guy. But when he learned that I was an atheist,
Mhm.
just through natural conversation, he looked at me like I was Satan.
Yeah.
And he couldn't process the fact that he had worked for an atheist for
A number of years.
a number of years.
Yeah.
And he was legitimately shocked. And then he never was hostile towards me. It just,
There was an attitude change.
there was an attitude change.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And and this is after I had really stuck up for him, like, and told people to shut up
Mhm.
when they complained about his preaching or his
Yep.
loud stuff, whatever he
Yep.
was doing. And at that time, I guess I just assumed if you were Asian, you were Buddhist or Taoist or something else.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I
Or
didn't
Hindu.
know.
Yeah. Exactly.
I didn't know that there was this South
Huge
Korean
Christian.
Christian thing. It was meeting him and having that whole experience, and then having him react the way he reacted when I told him I was an atheist. And I think at the time I was pretty hardcore. Like now I kind of go back and forth whether I'm agnostic or atheist. I kind of
And it doesn't matter, to be
Yeah.
honest. You
Yeah.
know.
doesn't matter. But I think at the time I was very clear about that.
Say I had that same experience when I was over at Ravinia, that there was an individual, because So the thing about it is that everybody makes the joke, how do you know someone's an atheist? Because they'll tell you. And it's just like, man, I don't get it, because I would never talk about religion. Like, I would actively refuse to talk about religion with people. They would bring it up in their conversation constantly
Mhm.
about, their beliefs. And I would just sit there and just not be part of the conversation, because, like, I didn't want people to feel weird about my belief, which is not having a belief. Anyways,
Mhm.
I think someone just literally asked me one day, or like, no, they asked me what church I went to.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I don't go to church. And they're like, what do you mean you don't go to church? Well, I'm an atheist, so why would I go to church? And that was the same look on their face, which was, oh my God, you're despicable. You're disgusting to me. Or what's wrong with your brain,
Mhm.
sort of thing. What they told me, and this was a lesson, or a thing that kind of changed the way I view a lot of Christians and other religions, not just specifically Christians, but they don't care your denomination. It's the fact that you don't believe in whatever form of God.
Mhm.
So if I was Islamic, they were like, oh yeah, okay.
Or what about pagan?
Yeah, pagan. Well, no, because that's pagan, which is Satan. Remember, because
Oh,
the mentality of Christians, a lot of the core beliefs of Christians is that paganism equals Satanism.
okay.
So because they don't actually understand the background of a lot of their own religion,
Right.
and what pagan means, and what a lot of Hinduism is actually paganism. But we'll get outside of that, because it's a non-Abrahamic religion.
As long as you're an Abrahamic religion, or
Yes.
you're a Buddhist, or you're
Which is non-Abrahamic, but
or a
I think they're
Hindu.
like, it's okay, even
Mm.
though it's like, if you understood that philosophy too, you'd probably have issues with it as well.
But as long as you believe in a deity,
Yeah.
then you're okay. But
And I think it's mental gymnastics, because it's like, okay, you worship the teachings of Buddha, right? Well, that's just God in a different form.
mhm.
So it's okay. It's El Calente, which we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's, and I think that's the thing, is that it's that justification in their head that, okay, it might not be Abrahamic, you might not believe in Jesus and God and the way I do, but hey, it's the same thing. It's my God basically tweaking himself to so that you're a believer. So it's okay in the end.
Mm.
That's the feeling I get from it, and I could be totally wrong, because this is just
One dude that said that to you.
yeah, but no, not just one dude. The My coworker that was from Ghana, same thing. He said it, and I was like, oh yeah, I've heard this before.
Mm.
But I wouldn't talk. I mean, again, wouldn't talk about it. He would talk about it all the freaking time, and I'm just like, okay, okay. Like, I'll allow it, because I don't care.
Yeah.
It just doesn't interact with my life at all. But man, the minute I don't think I've ever worked at a job where I didn't have a Christian trait to talk to me
Convert you.
about my religion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't talk to me. Well, because I don't ever have anyone trying to convert me. There was one time where I was,
Oh, let me rephrase. They didn't try to convert me. They just assumed that I was Christian.
oh,
And then it would be,
shocked when you're,
yeah, you'd just be like, hey, how was your church Sunday? Or, like, isn't God great today? And I'm like, that's a lot of assumptions, man. And why are you saying this in a
yeah.
work environment?
It's so funny because I don't really have that experience. Not my experience with this Korean man
Mhm.
was the first time that really happened.
Mhm.
Because most of the time when people try to convert me, I will go back to I was raised in a cult,
Yeah.
and that shuts them down
Yeah.
completely, and they don't
And they're
move.
like, well, okay. That's just weird.
There was one man that I was a coworker, and he was Mormon, and actually this was a good guy. I had such a prejudice against Mormons, and I really did. Growing up and living in Utah really kind of solidified that
and
prejudice.
not being a Mormon.
And
too.
not being a Mormon.
And yeah, I think is the important thing.
Yeah. And so I really had this bad attitude about Mormons.
Mhm.
And then I moved to Atlanta, and years later I met this Mormon, and he was the nicest guy.
Mhm.
And he would send me Mormon materials, and I would watch them and read it. I was really appreciative of the stuff he was sending me and talking to him because it made me a whole lot less prejudiced. I'm
Mhm.
like, if you were the kind of Mormon that I grew up with, if
You
you,
probably would be in the
yeah,
or have joined the church, maybe not, but still in it. But yeah,
I don't think I would have joined the church, but I would have a lot less prejudice than I did.
I wouldn't have hated all of you.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, you really changed. He really did. He really changed my attitude about Mormonism and the religion. And
Mhm.
he was a full devotee, 100% in, but didn't live in Utah. And so he would tell me, like, listen, Mormons who don't live in Utah are very different than the Utah Mormons.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay,
I can believe that.
I can see that. And
Mhm.
then later on, a friend of mine converted to Mormonism,
Mhm.
and we went to all of our kids' baptisms.
Yep.
We participated in a lot of Mormon events. We had a great time.
Yeah.
Like, there was nothing weird about any of it.
Well, I mean, I felt that way, but I
right.
have, just being in a church is I'm not comfortable.
Oh, I love being in churches because it was one of the things that God was going to kill me for if I went into if I went to any other church. In fact, I got into trouble for going to the Vatican.
Wow.
Yeah, I got censored because I was going into, and I'm like, I want to go see the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah. So me too. Like I want to go to that. I'm just talking about being in a normal just church.
Yeah, well,
Always got a smell to it that just
I love church.
triggers me.
I love going to church because it's one of those little tests that I talk about in
Yeah.
previous podcasts. Is okay, is God gonna hurt
Smite
me,
you, yeah.
smite me if
Yeah.
I go into this church
Mhm.
and I light a candle? Like, I think we were somewhere and we went into a Greek Orthodox church and we like gave money and lit candles. and stuff.
Yeah.
And the reason why I do that is because it's one of those brain programming conditioning things that I had as a
That makes a
child.
lot of sense.
And so I like to go into churches and participate, even though I don't believe in any of it. All right.
Yeah, we went on a tangent there.
Yeah, we
but
totally did.
It was good. It was a tangent, but I also have to say too that I feel that what we're gonna find here is going back to that charismatic
Back to
kind
the
of
day bells.
conditioning.
Yeah,
Yes.
back to the day bells.
Yeah. So yeah,
and
it was
what
kind of off
happened.
topic a little bit, but I also feel too that that thinking of what I was trying to get to with what my story was the idea that there are like the light side and the dark side kind of people within, like as soon as they found out you're an atheist, you just get that look. And it's that same kind of automatic conditioning too that I think you might find is going to be prevalent in this, which
Yeah.
is
Well, in the whole thing.
you're possessed and yuck,
Yeah. Poor
And take it.
woman.
and take it to,
Yeah. So we'll cover this case as it goes forward.
yeah.
Because it's local. And the things that I learned from all of this, I mean, having the employee several years ago who is Korean and very fundamentalist Christian opened my eyes. I also had another coworker whose mother converted later in life and destroyed all of their family Buddha heirlooms. He was devastated. He was absolutely devastated.
Oh, yeah.
So I learned back then that there's the whole Christian, Korean type religion. And then when looking through the Soldiers of Christ, trying to figure out what they believed, because I really couldn't figure it out. All I know is the story of what happened locally. Finding out that there are a lot of cults in Korea, Christian cults, because in the U.S., it's kind of on the decline, I feel.
What's that?
Christian cults. But in Korea, it feels like it's on the incline. Somebody said that you just walk down the street and people try and convert you on the street.
So I
That
wonder.
just doesn't happen in the U.S.
Yeah, yeah. So I wonder if it's the concept of trying to integrate your culture into a Western religion. Because I mean, I know that Christianity is not a Western religion, but what is being imported into Korea is definitely the westernized version of Christianity, which came technically from the Middle East. So we've taken hundreds of years to kind of westernize it to our culture, and our cultures come from it, and it's intertwined. I wonder if that's the same kind of issue, is that they're trying to take a South Korean perspective or Korean perspective and apply it to this church. You can get these offshoots,
I have no idea.
because it's so interpretive, that you read a line, we read a line that says, and that means you don't kill people, right? You go to Korea and maybe from their thousands of years of history, that line means, oh, we can do whatever we want. We can kill people and it's okay. I don't know. I'm just kind of going off on like,
I think the Korean community was horrified by the Soldiers of Christ.
yeah.
And I think the Koreans in Korea that are following this story are horrified also. I think most people are horrified by this.
Mm-hmm.
I think they feel it does not represent their version of Christianity.
Agreed. Yeah.
But I think as you were talking, it reminded me of the In God We Trust.
Mhm.
In God We Trust came about by distinguishing ourselves apart from the Soviet Union,
Right.
the atheists.
Right.
And
McCarthyism. Yeah.
and it made me feel like maybe that's the South Korea a way of, hey, we are Christian and we believe in God, as a way to distinguishing themselves from North Korea,
Yeah.
the atheists and the cult of their glorious leader
Mhm.
in North Korea. So
Kim Jong Un.
yeah, so maybe that's why people turn to cults. I don't know. It seems like Korea has a good economy,
Yeah, South Korean economy is really good.
so it's not really economic.
No, but Japan has the same issue too. So there are a lot of emerging cults, and they call them new religions.
Mm-hmm.
But the religious practice in Japan is controlled. So you have to get approved to have a church.
Interesting.
To have a church that's
Tax free.
yeah, or I don't know if they do taxes or not for churches in Japan, but there is definitely like a ministry of religious, that you have to be. It gives you, I think, you get benefits from the government if you are a part of this.
So there's so much to explore when it comes to, because we are what we've been exposed to is the U.S. and the cults
Mhm.
in the U.S. and it would be very interesting to explore those other type of cults. So if you're interested in learning more about other types of non-U.S. cults, leave us a comment. Let us know. We're always interested to learn more. Is how we learned about some other, the dancing cults and the acting cults
Yeah,
and
there's so much.
commercial cults.
There's
And
so much out there.
there's so much, and we get that information from you. So leave us a comment. Let us know. Also leave us a comment. Let us know if you are following this case, the Soldiers of Christ. They had the preliminary hearing a few months ago where the text messages were exposed and the story of Sihi came out.
Mhm.
And I don't know if the court case is scheduled yet or not. So as soon as that comes up, we'll let you know.
Yep, and also, guys, if you can help us, just subscribe to the channel. That would help us out a lot. We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. To be completely honest, we're trying to do this where we can give content back to you guys, and that would help us so much to achieve our goals. So we would appreciate it.